Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says he has contacted the US administration after an Australian journalist was shot in the leg with a rubber bullet while covering protests in Los Angeles. Mr. Albanese has slammed the, quote, horrific incident involving Channel 9 correspondent Lauren Tomasi. He says the footage clearly shows she's a member of the media.
That was the footage of an Australian journalist doing what journalists do at their very best, which is to go into an environment that's not comfortable, but where in LA it is not unreasonable to think that she would not have been targeted with a rubber bullet.
Meanwhile, a convoy of buses transporting some 700 US Marines has departed for Los Angeles. US President Donald Trump earlier doubled the number of National Guard troops in the city on top of the 2,000 he deployed over the weekend. Clashes between demonstrators and federal military forces have entered their fourth day. A similar protest emerging outside of Los Angeles. Tear gas canisters have been used to disperse crowds in Dallas and Austin. Those peaceful demonstrations were held to show solidarity with protesters in Los Angeles against immigration raids. Well, Nick Harper joins us live from Washington. Nick, with this addition of US Marines, are protesters showing any sign of backing down?
Sue, not so far. We're now into day 5 and there was more unrest overnight. Day 4 saw more arrests on the ground, more tear gas, more confrontations between protesters and police. And there really doesn't seem to be any slowing down from the protesters' side of things. We have seen that doubling of National Guard troops, Donald Trump ordering it to be upped from 2,000 to 4,000. However, the current 2,000 that he ordered a couple of days ago are not all fully yet in Los Angeles. So it may take some time until that troop swell increases all the way to 4,000 as desired by the US president. And as you mentioned, on top of that, 700 Marines have been mobilized. They are on their way to Los Angeles, and we're hearing reports that they could be there in the coming hours as early as Tuesday. It's not quite daybreak yet in Los Angeles, but they are expected later on during the course of the day. And we are seeing protests beginning to spread. There were protests on Sunday evening in San Francisco. During the course of Monday, we saw protests break out in New York, and then on Monday evening in Austin, Texas, where protesters were outside in front of the Texas state capitol building. But there is this fear on the protesters' side and this accusation against the White House that Donald Trump is deliberately trying to escalate the situation by sending more troops, more National Guard and Marines as well to Los Angeles. And protesters there are worried with that increase of troops. There is the possibility of more violent confrontations between law enforcement and protesters.
Nick, this deployment of US Marines controversial for several reasons. One of them being it is in defiance of the wishes of both LA's mayor as well as California's governor. That's the ongoing spat between California's Governor Gavin Newsom and the President Donald Trump building on social media.
Yeah, definitely building, Sue. And I think it's interesting because the White House seems to be happy to be engaged in this fight. A White House official even saying, we're happy to have this fight. This is what America voted for. Because here we have a White House who's trying to portray itself as being strong on immigration policy, strong on law and order, taking this fight very physically, publicly, visually on live television around the world to a Democratic state, run by a Democratic governor, run by a Democrat who is the mayor of Los Angeles, the White House pushing back against what it sees as liberal policies within that state. But that spat between Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump has been increasing. The president even saying that he thinks it would be right for Gavin Newsom to be arrested because he believes Gavin Newsom is standing in the way of what he's trying to do in the state and law enforcement carrying out their responsibilities. Newsom, though, says all of this is a deranged fantasy, saying it's dictatorial and saying it's a blatant abuse of power, going as far as to say that he will be suing the Trump administration for overstepping its authority and federalising the National Guard. But there's also a fear on the protesters' side that Donald Trump may be ramping up towards invoking the Insurrection Act, which would give Marines and National Guard the ability to make arrests on the streets. The mayor of LA even saying that Donald Trump is using Los Angeles as an experiment, a test case, to see what he can do when it comes to federal power and how much authority he can strip away from cities and states.
Oh, thanks. Nick Harper there live from Washington, D.C., looking at those issues coming out of those protests in Los Angeles.